For a lot of snowmobilers, myself included, our passion for snowmobiling started back when we were kids. Now, because of that, we may have a special memory of a certain snowmobile from back then. Now, it could be the first sled that we can remember riding on, like a squirrel hanging on in front of a family member, or maybe it was the first sled we actually got to ride by ourselves. Or it could even be the after-school special sled where the goal was to trample down every bit of snow in the backyard, leaving no fresh snow behind. Now, I've got all of those memories all on one sled, a 1980 Skidoo Citation 4500, kind of like this one. But the cool thing about this sled is it's the actual sled that I rode as a kid, and it's still in the family, still giving kids their first snowmobiling experience. So my brother Mike is the current caretaker of the old Citation, and he's here with me in the shop to kind of take me through sort of where it's at today, because it is Grandpa's old machine, but you've had to do some updating to it over time to keep it going, right?
Oh, this beauty deserves all the love it can get, It's had a number of things happen to it, but we've put a new track on it.
Yeah, that was last year you put the new track on.
Last year it got a new track.
Triple the value of it.
Triple the value. That track is worth more than the full value of the sled, easily. Got a new windshield this year, really fancy stuff. The sled usually spends its summers, being used as a mouse washroom.
Yeah, that kind of killed the last motor, right?
Oh, there was so much mouse stuff in there that it seized the engine up totally. Had to take it right apart, and turns out the engine was it was done. We couldn't salvage it.
So this is now the performance model of the 4500, because it's no longer the 368.3 cc engine that comes stock in these things.
Skidoo's good. Everything throughout the 80s, any engine will bolt into any chassis, it seems like. So we took a 440 that we found and put it in there, and dropped right in, bolted right in, everything just mint. Perfect.
Well, and I appreciate the changes you made to keep this thing alive, because I think you've had it for a number of years now, and you're kind of experiencing the backyard stuff with your girls, towing them around on a GT snow racer and things like that. I mean, that's what we did as kids all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
But I seem to remember when it left here quite a number of years ago now, it also had the luxurious silver duct tape seat on it. And notice you've recovered it, so that's good.
I really love this sled. It's it's got great suspension.
You've modified the rear suspension by removing the shock.
The shock came right out, yeah.
A little bouncy.
It wasn't doing much anyway. So it's kind of like a pogo stick with a track on it now, which makes it a lot of fun to ride, actually. Big, thick seat, and it goes fast. It goes faster than it should, that's for sure. So.
Well, with the 440, I'm sure it would. But I mean, it's a great backyard sled. That's what I remember most, getting home off the school bus, getting out to the back. It sat outside by the garage, dusted off with snow. And I think I had like 3 pulls in me. If it wasn't running by the 3rd pull, I wasn't riding that day.
That's about right. Yeah.
Now, you're a teacher, and you've brought this thing into your school on a number of occasions, and kind of working with it with the shop class there too. That's kind of interesting. You're giving those students a chance to experience snowmobiling maybe for the first time as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't get more basic than this, and the kids can, they get in there, they can see clearly what the parts of the engine are and how it works, and usually what's wrong with it. And we spend tons of time in that shop class taking things apart, putting them back together, and this is. Well, I think the only reason it's running today is thanks to the lads at school there.
Yeah. The sled that I owned after this one, that I worked all summer for and I ended up buying, was the 1990 Indy 650, which we've seen on Snowmobiler television. And I was riding this sled in the backyard, and our neighbor had the 650, and I thought I was a boss. I was like, I got the 4500, and it was fast. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, and I said to Mike, the old owner of the Indy 650, because it had a speedometer and I didn't. I had no idea how fast I was going, but I thought I was doing hundreds of miles an hour. So we're out in one of the fields, and I'm doing the full tuck behind the windshield, and I've got Mike pacing me with the Indy 650, and again I'm on fire. I'm going so fast, and I can remember this is as fast as it goes. We're even going downhill a little bit in the field, and then we get to the end of the field, and I'm like, oh, how fast was that? And Mike goes, I think it was about 40 miles an hour.
That seems about right. Yeah.
And it was like, talk about, I had this big balloon and it just popped, gone. You've liked this sled so much.
I love it. I love this sled. She's a real beauty.
But you purchased a second one.
I went to purchase a part sled for this one, just to make sure I could keep it running. Turns out the part sled was in much better shape than this one. So we'd be happy to know that we've had this sled in the family since 1980, and just last week we got the ownership for it. So I think it's almost ready to go on a real trail.
Which I think is what we have to do. And thanks very much for looking after this sled, keeping it in the family.
My pleasure.
And it is, to me, it is definitely super cool that we've got this sled that's still in the family and still giving family members snowmobiling experience. So it's good times.